All right, so welcome to the corridor. My name is Angel Leon, your host, and today's guest, he sits at a place where a lot of founders really never get access to, I would say, and he sits inside one of the largest financial institutions in the world, working directly with Latino founders, crossing borders, markets, and capital systems. So Alejandro Manzanares is our guest today. Welcome to the corridor.
Thank you, Angel. Thank you for having me.
All right. So, before we get into your role at JP Morgan and the Global Passport program that you lead, I want sort of like your personal version, right? What put you specifically at the intersection of global capital and Latino founders, right? Because that's not necessarily a seed that, it may seem random for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I'd say some of it is a little bit of accident. I'm born and raised in Puerto Rico. My mother was Cuban. My father is from Spain. I was part of in my 20s, early 20s, I was part of one of the largest daily deal websites in the Caribbean called gustazos.com. Basically beat out Groupon for many, many years. And I did business development across Tenerife in Spain, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Panama. I opened, I worked Miami door to door selling daily deal discounts. Then I worked in policy. I studied policy in Boston for my grad school. And that led me years later to I opened up an office in Puerto Rico, the Endeavor Puerto Rico office, which was mostly almost around a decade now that I've been doing that. And from there, moved to Washington, D.C. after Hurricane Maria. So I was in Puerto Rico when Hurricane Maria happened. And I basically, went to DC to start again. And there I built a program at the National League of Cities with mayors over from 100 cities, um, doing interventions in their cities around entrepreneurship, with ecosystem partners around the country. Then did that at the Aspen Institute, worked in 6 Latino majority cities where I worked in El Paso, I worked in San Bernardino, California, Chicago, Miami-Dade County, and Phoenix. And I work with committees of cross-sector leaders in those cities thinking about interventions to support the Latino small business economy in those cities, both startup and Main Street. And that sort of led me to then JP Morgan, where almost 5 years ago, I was our head of DEI for our Hispanic Latino office. So I led all our business growth related sponsorships. So I did activations and grew partnerships within the Hispanic Latino community nationally. And recently, then I wanted to sort of expand my professional scope and got the opportunity to join this team where I lead the West Coast for Global Passport, supporting foreign-owned startups coming here. So I do have a European passport from Spain, and I also joined the Council on Foreign Relations as a term member. So that my enthusiasm kind of started in Puerto Rico, went national, and now hopefully it's global, and yeah.
Very cool. And so walk us through that, if you can, the global passport program in plain language, right? So a Latino
Uh,
founder is listening to this right now and has never heard of it. What does it unlock for them that they could not necessarily get on their own?
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So sort of the backdrop of Global Passport is 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, the global corporate bank at JP Morgan started to refer a bunch of Series A to Series D startups that weren't as large to fit the mandate of the commercial banking size and weren't as small really and had different banking needs from there's a flyer on here so that you might expect from a Chase retail branch, right? So the bank decided to launch this team. It's a white glove, it's a little SWAT team of sort of expert bankers that have been trained on the multinational corporations line of business. So this is the line of business that the company that banks foreign-owned startups for the last 100 years, pretty much.
Oh, okay.
So all these bankers are trained in cross-border currency, foreign exchange, FX, transfer pricing, and so our bankers, they're not part of the Chase retail branch, what you see in New York and where city. They're
Mhm.
part of our corporate office. So basically, our bankers serve like a fractional CFO to many of our founders. The majority of our clients are mostly Europe, so a lot of European-based companies, but we do get a lot of founders from LATAM. And from LATAM, if you're in LATAM and scaling through LATAM and wanting to enter the US market, as you think about what are your more complex banking needs, typically many of them have the famous Holdco in Delaware or the Cayman Sandwich and all those things we can get into. Um, Navigating the market, with a partner like JP Morgan
Mhm.
is there's nothing really that compares. And then my job, because I'm not a banker, my job is actually to help the founder connect them with the ecosystem. So we do have a running list and growing list of founders of sort of tax, legal, accounting, insurance, selling into advise. I spend the bulk of my time advising these founders of how to think about scaling into the US, how to think about, do I do the flip? Do I don't do the flip? Who should I sell to? Go to market? All those things using our buildings. So they come here, they're from Chile, Mexico, Brazil. They want to come here and use our buildings for clients, for board meetings, investor meetings, client
Mhm.
meetings. They could use it. So we are a small team, but we're basically here to be a landing pad. And eventually, after Series D, they graduate into the global corporate bank. And then after that, hopefully they ring the bell and go public and they go to the investment bank. So that's kind of the journey of the international founder with global passports, starting from the early beginnings.
And these startups, they need to be in a specific vertical or specific industry. Do they have to be fintech, or can they come from different type of industries?
We service all sectors except fintech, anything TP3, moving money across borders. Because we're a bank, we're highly regulated. So we have a separate team that does all KYC due diligence for that.
Mhm.
But no, we right now have clients from every major. Obviously, AI is the thing that's right now most present in this city and in every major city in the world. But we do biotech. We have biotech, deep tech, agri tech, health tech, everything pretty much.
Very cool. And usually, and I feel it just, historically, right, there is a complicated sort of relationship, right, between Latino founders and big financial institutions in different ways, right? Distrust, doors that don't open, whatever you want to call it, right? From where you sit and JP Morgan, what do you think is the role of the banks, that they actually play in the startup ecosystem, and where have they fallen short? Right, with our community specifically.
Mhm. Loaded question. I That is a loaded question. I will say that um, out of I think there's been some historical in America, and it clearly documented. This is not my opinion, but it's out there. It's out there, so it's documented that there's been not the best sometimes the bank showing up for communities. To be quite frank, not just the Latino community, but many other communities too.
Mhm.
Um, I feel that this bank has is leading the charge on how to at occasions correct if that's what's needed, and
Mhm.
then really show up. I can give you countless examples of the work that I did when I was the head of DEI at our Hispanic Latino office, which we still do have, and we have sponsorships that were never explored before. They were never giving money to before. Bankers never did activations in these events and these forums that have been around the Latino community for 20, 30, 50, sometimes 100 years. And the bank has showed up. So right now uh, we are the only major financial institution that is opening up. We have an extensive, pretty aggressive chase retail banking um, expansion plan. So we're opening up um, um, our retail side of the house. We're opening up branches. We've been opening up branches consistently for the past 5 years, and even more. And the majority of those are in communities that are actually high Latino majority communities. So the bank understands that we have to show up in community, uh, and we're very aggressive doing that. Um, yeah, I feel very proud of the work that JP Morgan has been doing in that sense.
Very cool. So you work with founders across different markets, right? When you look at the Latino startup ecosystem globally, not just here in the U.S., Where do you feel the energy is right now, right? Where are those markets that are moving that investors in, let's say, New York, for example, or San Francisco are not necessarily paying enough attention to?
Oh, just recently I've been connected and learned about some incredible Brazilian startups. I think the Brazilian ecosystem, this is not rocket science, but it's very, very strong. I think it's getting stronger by I think by by every passing month. Um, the quality of the companies, and you can see that also in sort of U.S. investors in getting more comfortable investing in LATAM.
Hmm.
So I think that appetite is increasing.
Hmm.
I think that's just with Latino founders. I think USDCs are investing more and more in foreign owned, international founder stories because the companies are actually very good. So um, I feel like there's a lot of momentum um, from the Latam side. It's tough. I think it's tough. I always say it's tough. I've been there from when I was in my early 20s. I talked to the founders. Um, Scaling specifically from LATAM, having a couple subsidiaries, building from a couple countries, trying to enter the US market, trying to know when is the right time to enter the US market, um, um, and when to focus on one country or the other market, or how to bifurcate all of that. I think geopolitics has made it obviously more complex and complicated. The speed of news, this news cycle, everything is it's a tougher environment to grow a company. But at the same time, I'd say for international founders, there's data right now that international founder offices are coming down every year. So they're opening up less offices in the US,
Hmm.
but they're investing, but USDCs are investing more in international founders. And they're doing that with the focus of coming to the US market because it continues to be the
Hmm.
biggest market in the world, the most attractive. That's where VCs want folks to go because they're going to get their distributions back and all of that. So I think overall a positive environment. Uh, I think there needs to be some minds a little bit sometimes some mindset shifts in how to approach the U.S. market.
So, Koki, as you know, might know, right? Koki Venture, we've talked about that in the past, and it's built on the idea that the best deal flow within the next decade, let's say, right, comes from those founders that traditional funds are not necessarily yet meeting, right? So, from your seat, first of all, do you believe that, right? And based on what you've seen, and what would it take for a fund like that, right, to credibly be that bridge, right? Because a lot of the thesis around Koki Ventures sits on that, right? That there is a, let's call it, connective tissue, right? That is sort of missing, connecting those early stage founders with any kind of room for that matter, right? Resources, mentorship, capital, etc. So where do you see that?
Um, so to answer I think a part of your question, do I feel that there is very good talent beyond the U.S. in terms of the quality of companies and founders, and is that increasing? My answer to that is yes. I think the data reflects that. I think the amount of companies that are scaling that are not US led that are doing great around the world is you get Spotify, Legora, Light, you get so many other companies that are not, they're started by non-Americans, to be quite frank. So I think on that side, there's also companies like Enter and Dojo and other companies that are doing great from Latam that they will continue to do really well. Um, that's on the founder side. I think unfortunately on the funder side, on the emerging funder side, and funds that are not your top tier Silicon Valley based um, Sand Hill Road funds, which you can make the case that they're becoming a sort of another type of funder. Like they're sort of
Mhm.
aggregate asset allocators now because they're so gigantic in scope, and then a lot of the tier two, tier three, tier four funds are having a hard time. So if you're trying to be a tier 4 or 5 fund and trying to bet on these other talents, um, it's finding them is a little, I think, a little bit on the tougher side. You know, getting distributions back, uh, sort of the LPGP, you know, the distributions back to emerging fund managers on the funder side has taken a hit. You know, distributions are pretty much all-time low right now. So the big funders can take the hit, but the smaller tier 3, 4, 5, they can't. So um,
Right.
tougher in that sense, right? A little bit tougher in that sense.
So take us to the future, right? How do you see banks in general interacting with the startup community more and more, right? Let's say within the next 10 years. How do you see that in the future?
Uh, that is a very good question. I'm gonna answer that question by saying like banks and also cyber. Like I think believe
Okay.
JP. I think right now we're investing. I don't know the exact number, but I think close to $1 billion a year on tech and cyber, just because the threat environment is the number one priority
Yeah.
for leadership. Is everyone is not sleeping at night because that is very real, and every passing day, the threat landscape getting more complex. The bad guys are getting way smarter, and they're doing a good job at penetrating um, sort of vulnerable systems. And you can see that through Anthropic and Cloud and the executive order that they mandated to not use the recent Fable and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in general, I'd say the banks, especially JP Morgan, we continue to invest in security. Sorry, there are flies around, and I won't kill the fly. And as founders raise more and more money, they're going to need that money, and investors want that money to be in a safe space, a safe space. So I think banks like JP Morgan that invest heavily in this, that have so much. JP Morgan has been around for over 100 years. We have presence. We have innovation economy bankers that we've been growing from the innovation economy banking practice in over 25 countries. We have people that founders can go and meet them in Prague, in Madrid, in London, in Beirut, in France, in Paris, in Israel, in Tel Aviv. So that for me, the banking relationship, the meeting someone in person, knowing who you are, helping you grow your business. Um, JP Morgan is still, we're on the early stages of growing our innovation economy practice around the world. We're doing investments, we're acquiring. We just launched digital banking in Germany alongside the UK. We have some expansion plans for Spain, for France. So we're going to keep growing. We're going to keep getting faster. I think we have to speed up a place a bit. We're doing that. Um, and then as founders scale and get more complex on their banking needs, they have more cross border. They have multiple accounts in multiple currencies. JP Morgan is very well positioned, and other banks, but JP Morgan too is very well positioned to be a trusted partner where you feel that you have someone there, team there throughout your journey. And that's basically what my message to folks is. Yes, you can start when you're pre-seed seed. You have these other fintechs and neobanks that can help you. But as you get more complex, as you want to get access to other investors and banks will still play a key role,
Definitely.
especially as we make investments in stablecoin and sort of other
Mm.
blockchain related technologies to speed up everything. Um, I think we should be fine.
So, talking a little bit about, artificial intelligence, right? Because I guess it's a hot topic, right? And I'm personally interested in understanding and knowing from your perspective and your experience, right? What is the role of AI within banking right now, right? And where do you see that growing, again, 10 years from now?
Oh, I'll caveat that question with I know very limited amount of that. So I will say a couple. I can say a couple things. Um, I think, well, JP Morgan, it's clear there's a Harvard business case study that's public that everyone can download it on JP Morgan's commitment to AI. And what we've been doing, mostly we started in the private bank. So we are investing aggressively in artificial intelligence in the company. Every, mostly every, I think it's been deployed to almost every employee in the company. But there is, we can use LLMs to summarize uh, notes, create decks, kind of the usual thing that I think Fortune 500 companies are using right now. That's happening. Um, Beyond that, there's some particular use cases that the company has been experimenting with: customer service, risk, other parts of the bank. I don't have exposure to that, but there is definitely
Hmm.
some very productive areas. I think over time, I think wealth management will be one that will. It's already happening now. It's speeding up our wealth managers, but it's, I think, going to continue to uh, to be trusted. But we're aggressive, but we're also kind of, JP Morgan is very thoughtful how the bank adopts, deploys, thinks about this. Um, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I can see, in the future, right? So many different things the bank could potentially do, and and yeah, my curiosity was more about how is it being used today, right?
Mhm.
And to what extent specifically. So first of all, Alejandro, thank you again for your time, for spending time telling your story, where you come from, your journey, right, and all those great things that you're part of and you're doing right now, helping the Latino community globally, for that matter. So one last question that I want to ask is, any Latino founder is, listening to this right now. They're early stage, they're building something real, right? Trying to figure it out, right? How to think globally, for that matter, from day one to come out right with that structure. What is the thing that you want them to walk away from this, listening from this, that they should know?
Oy. Number one, it's never been easier to scale a global company in history than right now. So that's definitely number one. You don't need to have an office in the US market, the largest market, to be successful.
Hmm.
Number two, I think um, explore. There's this rule of thumb that I go by, which is if you are coming into a U.S. market, and this is kind of common and with some other experts, coming early or coming late. Don't come in the middle. And I think a lot of Latin founders kind of come in the middle, including from Puerto Rico, where I used to work with the best founders, are kind of coming from the middle. I
Hmm.
think global first really fast. I think the best sophisticated technical founders that I've ever met are Israeli founders. I think they're the most disciplined, technical. They think about a US Delaware company since they opened up the company. It's a top co, it's an operating company. They do billing, invoicing from there. Um, I think I'll nudge LATAM-based founders to really think about the holding company and then the sending back to the subsidiary. Try to make sure that the holding company is an operating entity sooner rather than later. Have it be build receivable, have activity from there, have assets. So a bank can later bank the assets of that company, and it's not just a shell company. Think about that earlier. Um, think about, while it's good to not have, this is a key thing that came up in our innovation economy report. While you don't need to have an office in the U.S. market, clearly, right? You got companies like Lovable. It's a U.S. topco. The team is in Stockholm, pretty
Hmm.
much. They have Steamer, but it's Stockholm. Um,
Hmm.
if you're a startup and if you're in AI and you're in San Francisco, you're based here. Your valuation right now, there's a premium on 30%. So like right now, being in this city in this moment in time in history is essential. So a lot of Latam founders, they think about like, no, I'll go there, spend a little bit of time, or really I don't go there. If I could go back to Puerto Rico and sort of lead our tech ecosystem, I would probably say I want an office from Puerto Rico in Silicon Valley, and I want to bring 5 delegations a year, and I want people to live here for a little bit, and the founders to go, because this is where right now, and that was, this is where they're building, this is where from our office, 70, in 8 square miles, it's 70% of all AI funding deployment of money is happening within that range. It's real. It is real. People, you can see it in new stores, new offices, new people from Ukrainian. There's everyone in the world is coming here. So come here. Come to the Bay. You can grow your company faster than every time. Get really knowledgeable on cross border. I think that's critical. A lot of funders that I talk to, they're still not know the sort of basics on sort of the tax and legal structure of the company, and they think that they can just sell a tech without thinking about taxes. It can get really complex, the federal, state taxes, and IP and all of that. So it starts to get really hairy really fast.
Mhm.
If you can get to address those issues earlier in your life and then focus on building, you'll be more successful. But overall, very positive. I would encourage it. It's a very exciting time right now to be a founder.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thank you, Alejandro. That was, amazing advice, and I'm sure that quite a the few things that you said is actually, information a lot of Latino founders don't know about, and just in general, you know, the other topic that I have talked about is just in general like legal preparedness, right? From the very early set
Mhm.
of things, right? Understanding the I feel that the best founders, right, have that structure, whether everything is in full set or not, but they understand the structure, right? And but a lot of those things are, I guess it's just information that we don't necessarily share much. So you see a lot of Latino founders without, a legal structure, or simply them not even understanding the legal structure, cap tables, right? Things like that, that when it comes to the due diligence moment, right? That's when things start to flourish. And then all of a sudden,
Mhm.
you have something you thought it was investable. Now it's a completely, uninvestable company, right? So. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate your feedback and your advice, and your story. Amazing, your journey, everything you're doing for the community.
Gracias.
I'm sure that a lot of people out there appreciate it. And just very, very last thing, how can people contact you? How can they connect with you and potentially learn more about, right, the program you lead?
Yeah, you can connect with me via LinkedIn, Alejandro Manzanares there. Also, my email is alejandro.manzanares@jpmorgan.com. And they can reach out to me, and I'm around. I'm always around, always take calls. Don't
Awesome.
mind it.
All right. Well, thank you again, Alejandro, and for everyone out there listening to this. This was the Corridor, and my name is Angel Lino, your host, and this is the show where we sit down with founders, investors, operators, and everyone in between, building on the corridor, telling those stories, and empowering the Latino community. So, thank you for listening to this, and again, Alejandro, thank you so much.